Ciao friends, my name is Joey. Welcome to my channel. Look at this deliciousness. This is such a fun project for jewelry makers and something really cool that we can do with our beads and our jewelry supplies like jump rings and charm holders and bails. And I'm going to show you like some of the things that I've pulled, but making beaded pins is such a fun kind of a breakaway from necklaces, bracelets, earrings, rings, and all of that. But they make great gifts. A lot of us have people in our lives that do not wear jewelry, and this is something beautiful that you can make for them. I did a video doing this pin. I used the curated bead box charm and most of the beads from the box in February, and so I have a video on this pin, and I just love this. I'll show you. I'm going to do another one where I've used a charm holder, and so all of these that have the colorful pin base and then the little matching cap are just these are bead puzzles, and I'll show you what I mean by that, because each one, in order to get just the right length so that this pin is held together, these screw in. You just have to play with your spacers and your beads and your colors to get it just right. This is one that I just did off camera, and I am mixing acrylic beads and some silicone beads and spacers. This one I took a silicone bead, if you can see, and I glued a spacer bead and a crystal to embellish that silicone bead further. I'm finding that my ceramic beads have the proper holes, and really that's the trick to this, is having the right hole size on spacers and beads to get these beautiful patterns. I love making these for gifts. I also love having a couple of these in an organza gift bag when I travel or when I go to a restaurant, because this way, if somebody helps me or they're extremely kind or really good to their job with their job and I want to recognize them, I can just pull this out of my bag and just give them a little handmade gift and kind of recognize them, a special thank you. So that's one of the things that I do with these. I also love these on my work table. They're just wonderful. I made this one for myself using all pink ceramic beads and gold spacers and a little crystal heart. So I'm going to pull these out that are in these kind of ready-made pins. As I said, I've mixed some lampwork beads, crackle glass, some crystal rondelle spacers, some really blingy acrylic beads, and the ones here are the ones that I'm working on today. So I am going to set these beauties aside and talk to you about first these pins. They come like this. And so this is why I say this is a bead puzzle, because you unscrew this, and I believe it depends on which one, but I think this unscrews as well, but I've been unscrewing this, and then you create your bead stack, and it has to be just right so that when your beads are on there, you can screw it down tight. Now, if you wanted to make this permanent, you could put a little E6000 or super glue on those threads, and when you screw it in, let it sit up, and then it's not going anywhere. I have not been gluing mine. I kind of think like when the pen runs out of ink, I probably won't change the cartridge because they're not expensive, and I might want to rescue my beads back again. So you know, this is what they look like, and I will put a link to these. These are from Amazon, and so they come in a pack like this, and you have like neutral colors, brights, feminine and masculine colors. You have metallic and matte in this little selection, so you can make quite a lot of beaded pins with that. Now, these are the two that I'm working on in that method of making a beaded pin, and this one is really done, and I love this one. I made this one for myself. These are Jesse James beads, and just some spacers that I have found on Amazon that have a large enough hole to fit on that metal rod. But the thing I wanted to show you, the only thing that's kind of unusual about this one, is that right here at the top of my heart, I made a little tiny wire coil with my bail making plier because I didn't like the way my stack was looking. I could see the metal rod and it was just an odd space. So this is what this little stack looks like, and I just line up that little rod, and on this one I honestly think I might actually glue it because I love this one and I want to keep this for myself and I want it to stay nice and tight in this pin and not come out. So I probably will, after my video, I probably will glue this one and keep its shape. This one, I've basically worked out my little stack, and what I did on this one is right here at the top, I put a bail with a little loop like we would use if we were making a necklace. These are often used for stretch bracelets, so you can hang a charm from a stretch bracelet. And I just got my stack just right, and for me, when I'm making these, that's what I work out, as I like to see this space here. I like this bead to sit really well on that part of the pin, and I don't want to see my metal rod. And I've alternated gold and silver. All of these pins have silver trim, so most of my pins I've alternated gold and silver. And what I'm going to do on that, I have a little pot. I'm going to talk to you about these that are fully beaded. I have a little pot here with really just like fun charms. I have this little teapot that's a charm. I also have these little teapots that they're charms. The jump ring would go through the handle, but ironically they have a hole in the bottom, and so I have an idea with that. But I also have this little heart, and I was thinking that that would be really pretty on this charm holder. So this I'm probably going to give to somebody. That's going to be a gift. So I'm just going to take some jump rings, and I made these. These are with my Soft Flex 20 and 22 gauge wire, and I'm just going to choose like 3 of them and connect them to make a little chain, and have that heart just hanging from that loop at the top of the pen. So it's just such a fun way to add a charm and add like something special. You know, if you put these bails on your pen, you can hang anything from here. And I'm going to show you like some of the ideas that I've had, and I'm going to show you another way to make these pens the way that I do it. I am also a paper crafter. That's one of my many arts that I have done over the years. So pens and like memory books and that kind of thing is something else that I do. But I'm just going to show you, I'm going to attach this just with 3 jump rings. I'm just going to come to my little charm holder and add in 3 jump rings and have my little heart hanging from kind of a jump ring chain. So just make sure they're closed really well. And last one. And this is this simple. Now, you know, you can, like, if you're doing gifts and you know who it's going to be for, you can really personalize these. You could put an initial here. If they love coffee, you could put a little coffee charm. If whatever they love, you know, if they love a sports team, you could put the charm of a little sports team. But this is just so gorgeous, and they write beautifully. I mean, they are just, you know, I just love doing these. I love these pens, and like, we all have people in our lives that don't wear jewelry, or, you know, it's just such a great gift. So let me talk to you about these. So these pens are all beaded, as you can see, and what I have used is an empty ink cartridge here. And I'll show you how I got my loop at the top of these pens. And like on this one, I did another little jump ring chain, and I added the other pieces to this charm set and put a little gold cup. So this one is kind of tea themed, and there's a little trick for this section here, and I'll show you how this pen started out looking. But here is another one that is all beaded, and I had these gorgeous little cat charms, and I wanted it to be a 2-sided charm because of the way this hangs on this pin. So I used E6000 and glued 2 of them together so that no matter which way my charm dangles, my little cat looks good on both sides. And I'm going to show you, like on this one, I was able to work out how to cover the entire ink cartridge without the seed bead wrap, but you know, there's options for covering the pin. So I have 2 different ones here. These are both, I ordered these from Amazon. This one is the longer one, and this one has a really fine, it's a really nice pin. And so it's just an empty ink cartridge. It's a refill for another pen. I don't even know which pen. And this is another pen refill. And so this one is a little bit thinner than this one. And really, that is the only challenge to beaded pens, is finding beads to choose from that fit over either the metal screw-in rods of these or the ink cartridges. And this one is a little bit shorter, so let me see. Now I'm trying to, this one is this one. And if you can see how much longer it is, because I've inserted a piece of wire with a simple loop on the top and made use of 2 different glues to make that stay. And I have this beautiful beaded pen that's a little bit longer than the refill. Now you can also take like an old Bic pen or a ballpoint pen and pull the cartridge out and bead those. You don't have to order these, but you always run the risk of, like, when you're taking the cartridge out, of ink going everywhere, and these are really inexpensive. So I will link both of these if you're interested in doing beaded pens, because I've done a little trial and error already. And so these are just so fun. You don't have to do the loops and the charms on the end. And that's what I was saying, that even though this is a teapot charm, it does have this hole, and it fits. Wait, did it fit? It fit on one of my pens. It fit on this one. And so that, I think, is going to be the topper to one of my pens. I'm going to do a couple of these. So let me show you. Oh, I have a gold teacup in here. Oh, and I have these I wanted to show you. I just pulled these from my stash. If you've been making jewelry any length of time, I am sure that you have these simple bails with the loops on the end. But I have a little resource for these. These have been in my stash for a long time, but I'll link some bails with loops as well in case you want to give this a try. So, you know, it would be the same thing. Like, you just need to find find things that fit over your ink cartridge, and like that one fits perfectly. And then I have a loop to attach a charm, and I can attach my charm anywhere on my bead pattern that I want to. So let's get going on this. Let me show you some of the supplies. I can set these guys out of the way because they are done. So what I do is go through my beads and look for things that have a large enough hole to go over my pens, whether it be the ready-made ones or the cartridges. And what I have found is that a lot of ceramic beads have a large enough hole to fit over. A lot of boho beads, like from Jesse James Beads, they notoriously have a lot of large hole beads. If you have any past boxes from Curated Bead Box, that's where these crystals came from. And like, some of these fit over one pen and not the other. Like, let me just take one of my empty cartridges here. Let me just take one of these. And so what I'll do when I start collecting my beads is have one of these ready and my ink cartridges. And this way I can see like what's going to fit on what. And that's why I said this is a bead puzzle. So to me, if you love bead patterns and you love stringing and you find it like relaxing therapy to stack beads and match up your colors and space them out and come up with beautiful configurations, you are going to love this. I love this. But there's a lot of on and off. There's a lot of kind of playing with your bead puzzle. So as I said, I will go through and just pull things. And when I'm at the craft store, I'll look for things with, you know, a hole that's going to fit. Like, that's not going to work on there, but that does work on here. So maybe I'm going to finish this one with a bow and a teapot. Oh, that's pretty. It's so sweet. So I am going to play with some stacks. I was going to show you that I keep like a container of my acrylic beads. These are all acrylic beads. These are made to look like the troll beads, or even some of the beads that I've purchased in Venice. Some of the Murano glass beads look like these beads. I have like a pink, purple, and red assortment here, but they are acrylic, and they work beautifully for these pens because you get the beaded look without the weight and without the cost. So some acrylic beads are absolutely stunning, but the holes will not work for this project. But for me, I keep my acrylic bead assortment. Look how gorgeous that is. You would never know that that's acrylic. I think they're beautiful. I just picked these up at the craft store. They have a large enough hole to go on any of my pins if I want to do like a really colorful design. And these little, they look like crystal, but they're acrylic, and they have a large enough hole to work on everything. So when I'm going to do a project like this, look how cute this is. This is an acrylic bead, but it has little paw prints, little red paw prints on the inside. They're just lovely, and I know some people just don't work with acrylic beads. They just hate them, but I think they have their place. And like, look at this one, you guys. I mean, there's no way that if that's on a beaded pin stacked with some beautiful spacers that you don't know that it's a crystal or glass. So I have a lot of fun with these, and that is what I am pulling from, and I will happily put some links in the description box of some of these beads that I have found that have large enough holes for the pin projects if you like them. So I am going to start and make a little stack on this one. And I did want to show you how I do this little section with wire and seed beads, because you know the whole goal here is to not have any of your pin cartridge showing. That's the whole goal. So you have to kind of go through your beads and figure out what fits, and whatever space is left over, you know, you want to cover it because you don't want to see any of this in your project. So let me get going and start stacking some beads. I think I'm going to do this one first because I already know that I want this bow and this little teapot for my last two beads on the top of it. So let's see what we have here that will fit. And I think this is going to be maybe a pink and purple. And so I have these gorgeous acrylic purple beads. They look really great. And so on this particular refill cartridge, it has these little sides here for whatever pin it's supposed to fit in, but I found that I could pretty much push my beads over. I could come right down to the end, and what I have here is all different crystal rondelle spacers and metal like gold spacers. These are wonderful, and they pretty much fit. They don't fit over this, they fit over these. These have a pretty large hole, and there's another size in these that does fit over everything. I've used all of those in these pin projects. That's what you see here in this one and here. But these large crystal rondelle spacers, they fit over, I think they fit over this one too. No, it doesn't fit over that one. So like I said, this is a bead puzzle. It's just going to be really playing with all the different crystal and ceramic and acrylic beads, and just making a stack. One thing that I know that does fit are my beloved Tibetan spacers. I love these, and they fit over pretty much everything. And so what I'm going to do on this one is, after I decide what my bead stack is, I am going to use my E6000 glue and my gel Loctite super glue. These are the two glues that I have used on everything, and on the cartridge ones, I'm going to glue after I'm going to play with my bead stack first, and then I'm going to place a little bit of glue and pull every bead down. So let me just like select some beads here. I have sorted through my beads and come up with my stacks that I want to make, and so I'm just putting a little bit of E6000 glue. You can also use your hot glue gun for this. You can also use the gel super glue. I like the E6000 because it gives me a little bit of time to play with things, and this is all I'm doing is just a tiny bit and just sliding the beads down onto my pin in the pattern that I determined ahead of time. And I'm going to let these set up, and I'll show you how I'm going to finish the ends here and the little embellishment with the seed beads to hide this cylinder. So I'm going to keep going, get these glued, stacked and glued, and I'll be back to show you how I'm going to finish them off. Okay, these beauties have been drying overnight, and so now we can pick them up and finish them off. So on this one is essentially done. What I did is I let my bail with the loop dry facing forward right in the center of the little bow bead, and also I laid this down to make sure that my rose bead was facing forward. So this pen kind of has, you know, a front and a back, and I really love it. So on this one, I'm pretty much done, except I was thinking to just add this little heart charm. I went into my bead soup. I don't even know where I got that, but as I said, when you're making these, any personalization that you would like to do, whether it be an initial, I mean, you could even do a little head pin with some small crystal beads as a charm. You know, it doesn't even have to be an initial or a theme type thing. You know, you can use up what you have. So I'm just going to add that right here, and I have a few jump rings out here because sometimes I do like to make that kind of chain look. Can't get my tool in there. See how it looks. Well, it looks good with just one jump ring. So I have a little bit of movement, a little jingle, and this pin is done. What I do on my pins is the same that I do on my jewelry. I will take my anti-tarnish coating and brush it over all my metals, my little Tibetan spacers. If I didn't show you these, I know if you've been here before, this is not going to be a surprise, but I love this Tibetan spacer assortment, and there are a couple of large hole spacer beads in this assortment. It's very inexpensive, and I use them quite a lot in doing all of my pen designs. But that one is essentially done. It can go in my done pile. And then this one is also dry, and I put I'm alternating silver and gold, so I put a silver bail with the loop, and I was able to get one of my ceramic beads in here. And again, I was kind of, when I was stacking my beads, I was just kind of looking at a nice place to hold on to for these. So like this one is pretty flat, and you probably wouldn't want to sit and write a 10-page report with these, but they are so beautiful for a little notepad. Let me just show you something that I recently found. I found this type of a little notepad, and it has an elastic loop for your pen. So if you had a gift to make, and maybe it's even somebody who, you know, doesn't read, doesn't wear jewelry, you could do a beautiful notepad with a little elastic loop and add a beaded pin to that, and that would just be absolutely a great gift. I mean, I would be thrilled if that was a gift that I received. So just thought I'd share that. Okay, so what we're going to do is, this is the pin cartridge that has this funny little center section in here, and I just didn't have a bead that would go over it. So I'm going to show you how I did this little beaded seed bead section on this pin, to really, because the goal is to hide the entire ink cartridge. So I have a little length here of my 22 gauge soft flex wire. You could go down to 24 or even 26 gauge here if you wanted to. I just had this on hand, and I'm just going to come in here and get it started as tightly as I can. So just, you know, get a couple wraps in there, kind of like we do when we're going to add wire to anything. And you can tuck, trim, whatever you need to do, but I want this to be really neat, and you know, I want to get my seed beads strung on this wire. So that's what I'm going to do. Just going to tuck it in there, and I am ready to load my seed beads on. So I have my little seed bead tray, and this one is 11/0 seed beads, and these are 8/0. Really, you could use anything you want. I just kind of look at the scale of my other beads. So since this little section is going to be wrapped in between two chunky ceramic beads, I went up to an 8/0 seed bead. So I'm just going to thread a pretty good length on here to get my wrap started. To fill in that space, you can kind of see, look how gorgeous that is. You can kind of see where you need to stop, because the whole goal is just to fill in the space on the pin cartridge. So let's see, I think I can fit one more. And then let me, oh, maybe I can fit one more. Let me show you what I did on my other one. Here it is. So on this one, if you can see, I actually did a tiny little spiral, and I think this was 24 gauge wire, judging by my spiral, because it was 11/0 seed beads. So really, you can do whatever you need to do to secure this. This one is a bit chunkier, so maybe I'm going to get my wire in here with my pliers and pull it around. And I mean, I'm pulling really tightly with my pliers to work it down in there. And I actually do have a really cute little space here that I could do a spiral. So why not? I think it would be really pretty. And on a bead like this, that's so smooth and flat and chunky, I might even lay the spiral up there. So that's going to be too long. Let me make a little space here and trim some of this away. And this is just a normal, like all your jewelry techniques. Just get a little spiral in here. That is so pretty. Just flatten it against my bead, and I'll use my nylon jaw pliers when I need to snuggle wire up to a bead. But isn't that pretty? I love it. Let me turn this a little bit. So gorgeous. It's such a nice way, and you can easily grab onto that for writing. So now to finish this one, we have this unfinished end. So again, this is a bead puzzle. It took me about 15 or 20 minutes of just going through all of my large hole beads to come up with 2 bead patterns. I did the on and off, you know, decided where I wanted spacers. And on this type of a pin cartridge, like on this one, I needed just a little bit of the cartridge sticking out to attach my topper. But on this one, I wanted this to be as flush with the end of the pin cartridge as possible. So I don't know if you can see, but because the ink cartridge is clear, but it's like flush. This bead is at exactly the same level as the end of the pin cartridge. And of course, I don't want to leave it like that. So what I did is took a little small decorative head pin, and this is a teapot bead frame. So let me show you how it works if you haven't seen these before. I just put the little topper of the teapot, and then this is, I think this is an 8mm crystal bead, but you can do round beads, you can do bicones for these teapots. They just look so cute, and then you set it in there like that, and you have your little teapot. And so I don't want to leave this head pin this long, because if I do, when I push this in here, it's going to go down and touch the ink. So I'm going to take my cutters and just remove a little bit of this length of this head pin. And I am also going to give this head pin a little bit of a bend. And what this is going to do is help with security. It's going to wedge it into the cartridge. So that's what I normally do. I'm still going to put glue, but that just will help to like wedge it down in there. And I debated about putting another bead like on these. You can fit another small bead here, and I debated about doing that, but I think that I'm going to glue this one just the way that it is. But it's important that you don't have your head pin so long that it's going down in the ink, because as you're building these pens, you do need to, you will pull things in and out, and the goal is not to have ink everywhere, which is why I ordered the refill cartridges instead of trying to recycle pens. Here again, as I said, you could use hot glue if you want to heat up your hot glue gun. I do that sometimes. And my other tip, when I'm going to sit and make a whole bunch of pens, I will take a block of styrofoam and stick my pens in the styrofoam and let everything dry that way. But I do pretty well placing everything and letting it lay flat on my mat and dry on my mat. So I'm just going to get a little dollop of glue, my E6000 glue. And I am going to push my little teapot situation. Let me get facing forward here. I'm just going to push it right down into the pin cartridge. And here's where like a little piece of styrofoam is sometimes helpful. And also, if you don't want to wait for like E6000 to bond, this is also where a hot glue gun can come in handy. But E6000 gives you a little time to like bend things or place things exactly the way you want them to dry, and I really like that. And with the E6000, if you haven't used it before, it does dry clear, but you can still see it. So I like to clean up a little bit but it dries rubbery. This glue does not dry crunchy hard. So on a situation like this, you can come back and like pull the rubbery strands off if some of your glue has escaped. And I am also known to mix glues. If I feel like something is not secure, I also will come with my gel Loctite super glue and sometimes add a little bit if I feel like something is not secure. But I'm going to set this one aside to dry, and then I'm going to come back with these jump rings and a little gold teapot and hang the teapot from this loop here. And so I have another really sweet little themed pen, and I have mixed gold and silver and pastel, beautiful pastel colors. And so I'm just going to turn this and prop this up to dry. Just going to like get it exactly the way I want it, and I'll lean it against my lamp here and let it dry, and I'll be back to show you how these beautiful pins turned out and what fabulous gifts they make, and so fun using your jewelry tools and your skills and your findings. You can make something so unique and so personal. I just love these. So just be a second for you, and we'll let this dry. Okay, I let this one dry for about an hour, so it's not really ready to write with, but I was able to finish making my teacup charm, and I think it's dry enough for me to add that in here. Well, maybe. So all I did here is, I'm being so careful because I do know that it's not fully dry, but all I did here is link together a few jump rings to make a little bit of a chain, and I'm just going to attach it right to that loop. And the last thing I'll do before I set these down to dry is take my Permalac coating, as I said, and just brush it over the metal findings the same way that I do with my jewelry when I make jewelry, because these are lovely. They are just base metal and they're plated, so they will tarnish on a pin the same way they would on a jewelry or bracelet or necklace. So this is just what I do. I always do this at the end of a project to add quality to my work. So whether I'm going to keep any of these pieces for myself, or give them away as gifts, my recipients or me will have them for a long time. So I just take about, it just takes me like 5 or 6 minutes at the end of a project to just go through and brush this on. And it doesn't even matter. Like, I'm just going to show you, if you brush it over, like this boho bead has a metal base, and I can brush it right over the crystals and it does not cloud them. They continue to sparkle, but that is with the semi-gloss finish. This does come in a matte finish, and you wouldn't want to brush the matte finish over anything that you want to sparkle because it will dull it. But this works so great. Even the little rim on these spacer beads, is a silver metal. And so I just give it a little light coating, and it just, adds quality to my work. And especially on a pin, you're going to be touching it with hand lotion and things just like we do with jewelry. So, and here's where I said, if you have like a styrofoam piece that you can poke your pins in, if you're doing a lot of these at one time, that's really helpful. But this beautiful little fun project, a little something we can do with our jewelry tools and beads. I mean, when you love beads, everything in your life has to be beaded, right? So even your ink pens. So this was so fun. I hope you picked up a little inspiration or a little tidbit here. I will put links in the description box to the large hole acrylic beads that I use, to these large hole crystal rondelle spacers. My Tibetan spacers have a really large hole, and anything else, when I edit, I'll find anything else that I've used that I think you might want for your own work. But I encourage you to go into your stash and pull out those large hole beads, the chunky boho beads that maybe you weren't quite sure what to do with. And I'm a big proponent of using what we have, what we've already purchased. But if you are going to collect some supplies, if you do want to buy a few things, I will put all those links in the description box. And I thank you so much for watching today. I hope everyone is safe and well and having fun on your beading mats. Ciao, friends. See you in the next video.